When we think of big steel on a model railroad, this is the imagery that sticks with us. The blinding heat of the cast house floor, the massive vertical silhouette of the blast furnaces, and the heavy, specialized wheel movements that keep the entire empire alive. But when it comes to translating this massive multi-mile industry into a track plan that actually fits our layout spaces without losing its operational soul, mini modelers hit a wall. In a previous layout design video, we tackled this exact challenge, focusing on how to compress an integrated steel mill into a small footprint without sacrificing the realistic flow of materials. But a great track plan is only half the battle. To truly bring a scene like this to life, you have to understand the exact logistical why behind every building, every siding, and every single car placement. So let's have a look at just that. Here is the layout in N scale, and here on the top is the steel mill. Let's zoom in, and here is the design. Let's go through the different structures first and where we can locate them on the schematic, and we'll move from there. So here is the blast furnace, as you see, and it's located right here on the track plan. Then we have the high line back here. That is right over there. The oxygen furnace or electric furnace is right there, and we can find that right here on the schematic. We have the coke plant with the quencher, and that is right on this track right here. And then we have steel casting facility right there, and that's right here on the track plan. Now the main line, that's this track right here, that's represented by the thick one here at the bottom. And then we have a passenger station here, and that's just represented by this red arrow. So let's have a look at the traffic. So let's look at the main receivables first and how that flows. So this track right here receives coal, and that is then put in an oven to produce coke. So for this, we're going to receive coal coming here from the main line, either from that direction or that direction. And the train is going to go onto the siding and then back up and park his cars right here. Because the traffic from the main line, the manifest trains, or the local does not switch the industry itself. So once the car is here, for example, then we have here the lead that switches basically every siding, as you see in this entire facility. That lead will be used to collect the car, go up here, mix it, and then shove it here to the high line. As we go to the next slide, we see the high line receives iron ore, coke, and flux. So for the iron ore and flux, it's the same story. They're all deposited here on the yard track, and then the resident switcher will collect them and send them up here to the high line. To get the right blend, the coke cars can also go here to the yard first. And then once we have a certain composition of cars with X amount of iron ore, and then X amount of flux, and then X amount of coke, then that will go up as a set to the high line. So as of now, the yard mostly fulfills the role to, let's call it, exchange cars that are coming from outside and to deposit them here where our own switchers can collect them and just classify them as well and use them how they are required to fit the process. But this yard also fulfills a second role, and that is to support basically all the internal movements that need to happen as well. So let's have a look at that. Starting with the blast furnace right here. Because we already got the coal, coke, and flux, that's going to be conveyor belted into the blast furnace itself. And then we get dust on this track, also some slag, get slag pots arriving on this track or being filled here, and then hot metal being filled right here. So the dust and slag can take this route and go to the yard, be deposited here on this track right there. And then the hot metal travels on this track right here, which is very important. This is the main lead, actually, of which almost everything is switched. And we're going to do the same. We're going to travel from here. We're going to then stop and back up into the oxygen furnace. And then here, the hot metal or pig iron is converted into steel and then ends up in ingot cars And then we go again on the main lead, and then the ingot cars go here, stop, and back up into the steel casting building to then be poured and shaped into different products. So you see all the traffic that we did, including this here, and some of the coke traffic is all internal. We do not touch the yard at all. Just to nuance it a little bit, because we will use 1 or 2 yard tracks to actually prep the cars before and after they go and receive hot metal, and the same here for steel. So we do need some yard tracks and some track elsewhere to actually clean the cars out, fill them again with limestone and bricks and what have you, before they're then used again. So slag also needs to be cleaned out, so that can either be on site or we deposit it here in the yard or one of these yard tracks, where one of our local engines at some point will go to an off-site slag deposit track or dumping pit, could be in that direction or in that direction. And then once the ingots are poured onto, or into, I should say, slabs and or rolled and waltzed into coils, cars basically go back to the yard where they will be collected by another manifest train or local on the main line. So these are all the different functions. There are some things still to go over and to improve, because actually there's a lot of detail that comes with when you design a track plan like this. And because many of you wanted a deeper look into the specific industrial logistics, I've spent the last several months compiling all of my research, track planning tactics, and operational metrics into a brand new definitive resource. And it's called the Modeling Guide to Steel, from real-world examples to design. And it's live right now on our store for $29.99. This 50-page masterclass manual centers entirely on the complexity of integrated plans anchored by a functional blast furnace. It's packed with 7 selectively compressed track plans, 42 images and diagrams, and the exact tools you need to analyze and design a steel empire of your own using standard commercial kits. If you want to skip the guesswork and get the complete blueprint for your operations, click the link in the description down below and grab your copy today. So now we have the track plan and the actual design on the layout, the benchwork, how much space it takes. Let's go through some areas that have been selective compressed a lot, and perhaps areas where you can expand upon. So the first one would be the yard. The yard serves so many duties right now. It handles in and outbound traffic, internal traffic, and also internal classification work. So it really does a lot of duties. So if you do have space, you can do one of two things. You can expand this yard itself by having more tracks and longer tracks. Because don't forget, if you make the tracks longer, then you can actually serve them from 2 directions. So you can't really count it as 2 yards, but you could have an inbound train dropping off cars here and then internally serve cars here from the same track. Better be to have a second yard altogether that you could use primarily for the in and outbounds, and then you would have this yard purely for your internal movements and to prep your hot metal cars. But as designs are always a compromise, you see this space required for that is not right here. That leads us a little bit to another, I think, quick win, but we could not do it on this track plan because this track goes up a grade. But if it wouldn't, then I would advise to add this line right here. So on the diagram, it looks just like that, just that small one. Ideally, you would actually extend it. They have very long siding, because then you have access to these tracks from both directions. So that would make switching cars from traffic coming from the left far easier, as you can just bypass it and then go backwards first into it. Or better yet, just immediately take the siding and then clear the main line. I'm talking about main line. This is another point that could be a weak point depending on how much traffic you have. So on the main line right here, as you see, we have the passenger station right there, displayed here in red, right there. And if you have a lot of traffic, then that basically means this passenger station is going to be blocked a lot. So the normal operation, we have this siding to go around it, which is all great. That's how it's designed to work. But this siding doubles as a lead to the yard for in and out bounds. So that basically means if you're using this siding as a lead and then you have passenger train right there, then all the other trains have to wait until either the passenger train or the siding is cleared again. So ideally, this section of track right here, if possible, now it's 1 car length, you would extend it to a minimum of 1 train length. So you see that has massive implications. It's a very long extension of this piece of track. What you could do as well is add another siding. So basically you have 1, 2, 3 tracks. It's a bit difficult to draw right here, but it would go over and up. And then you would have the main track, a passing siding, and then the lead to the yard. So as you see, all designs are a compromise one way or another. It has to fit, and it's all about finding the right compromise to make it work. One thing that design does incorporate to help make it work, and I didn't really talk about that, is this track right here. And this is a very important track. As mentioned, this is the lead to the entire internal side and to the yard to switch everything. But what it does is it also bypasses all traffic from the yard right here. So we can have 2 trains operate at the same time. One doing in and out bounds right here, and then another group doing all of the other switching for the internal yard. And on that note, the hot works go from here to here using the track right here. So that also means, let me see if I can get it here. Yeah. So some of the hot works can also continue while someone else switches the cars here that go up the High Line. So we could, in theory, have 3 crews working in this area at the same time. And if you're ready to bypass the frustrating trial and error phase and want the philosophy blueprints, track plans, and structural strategies for you to design your own steel mill, then grab the complete modeling guide to steel. I've hooked up a direct link to the shop button so you can download the manual immediately and start planning your own industrial empire today. I'm curious to see how you handle your large-scale industries, so drop your layout sizing and your biggest track compression challenges in the comments down below. That's all for today. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.